ekitongole ekiyitibwa Law Council kyasazeewo kati Martha Karua waddembe okujulira kuba nalabe n'ekiwandiiko ky'omukulembeze wa Uganda Law Society nga kikaatiriza ku nsonga egamba nti omuntu yenna ayina omusango mu kkooti waddembe okulonda lawyer yenna gwe yeetaaga oba Dr. Besigye alonze Martha Karua kati okusinziira ku Law Council kyesazeewo Martha Karua ne balooya be basobola okujulira. Ensonga ey'okubiri njagala bannayuganda tuve mu by'okwebuzaabuza. Tetuli mu Sweden, tetuli mu Denmark, tetuli mu Canada, tuli mu Uganda. We tuba twebuuziza nti twatuuka tutya wano we tuli nga Uganda. Tumanyi tubadde tulina engeri gye tukwataganamu okusinziira ku bye tubadde tutuula ne tuteesa ng'Abannayuganda. N'ebitole ebyegatta ne bikola Uganda. N'engeri gye tubadde ne constitutions ezimu nga tugenze tuzimenya. Ekizibu kiri nti ekizibu kiri ku musingi. Tewali kitundu kyonna ekya Uganda ekyajjuza form nga kyegayirira okubeera mu Uganda. Naye ngeri gye twesanze nga ffenna kati tuli mu Uganda tulina okubeera n'engeri gye tukwataganiramu n'ekitugatta ekyo kye tuyita ssemateeka. Kati amagye ge gabadde gakyusa gavumenti mu Uganda. Obukulembeze tebukyukako mu mirembe okuggyako omukulembeze waffe Ben Kiwanuka atalina malaalo eyava mu ntebe n'akwasa UPC obuyinza mu mirembe ye n'anyuka. Mu kulowooza kwaffe nga Democratic Party n'okusinziira ku bye twateesaako ne tubiteekako omukono, ffe tulowooza nti tubeera mu kwebuzaabuza bwe tulowooza nti akalulu ke kagenda okukyusa gavumenti. Akalulu kakola kaleeta abakulembeze, naye waliwo ebintu bisatu. Waliwo omuntu Abannayuganda bye baagala anyuke. Ekyokubiri, waliwo enkola ne sisitimu eriwo kati ate Abannayuganda abangi si bamativu ne sisitimu eyo. Ekyokusatu, obwongo bw'Abannayuganda bujjuddemu ebintu ebitabagasa nga bo balowooza nti oba waliwo nalulungi w'ebyobufuzi agenda okujja akola ebyafaayo akyuse embeera. Ffe tulowooza enkyukakyuka ejja kuva mu kuteesa. Era tuli basanyufu nnyo kubanga tuwulira nti olulimi lwe twogera kati buli omu lwayogera. Olulimi lwa transition, olulimi lwa dialogue, olulimi lwa constitutional reforms, buli omu kati yeesigamye ku kintu kyaffe. Baasooka ne batujerega ne batunyooma, naye kati tulinga ng'abafuuse nga Dawudi. Baasooka kumusekerera kubanga si general. Bagenero bali mu parade bakola ebisinde buli lwe bukya, naye ffe nga DP tusaba Abannayuganda tuleme kuva ku mulamwa. Enkyukakyuka esobola okujja ate mu mirembe, naye tegenda kujja mu mirembe nga tusiga bukyayi nga tugamba nti buli ayogera ne NRM oba ne President Museveni tayagaliza ggwanga. Ffenna tuli Bannayuganda era ffenna tujjaamu mu Uganda. N'olwekyo ekya transition eyo yo process. Sigamba nti onyiga bunyizi ka switch gavumenti n'ekyuka. Mu kiwandiiko kye twasaako omukono twagamba wabeerewo okwogeraganya abasobeza banaabwe benenye ne be basobaako basonyiwe banaabwe. Ekyokubiri, omwaka guno Ssemateeka wa Uganda agenda kuweza emyaka 30 omwaka ogujja. Buli kintu kyonna ne weebeera nnyumba eyinza okuba nga yeetaaga kuddaabiriza, ne constitution yaffe yeetaaga kuddaabiriza. Tunaatera okutandika enkola ey'okwebuuza ku bannayuganda, naye ng'ebintu ebisinga tubimanyi ebeesuza bannayuganda nga batunula. Abantu baagala buli gwe balayiza nga president bamanye nti tajja kusuka bisanja bibiri. Ekyokubiri, abantu baagala kendeeza size ya parliament nnene nnyo nga kwotadde n'ezi districts. Ekyokusatu, abamu bagamba baagala level ya parliament ey'okubiri kiyite senate. Ebyo bye bintu ebisuza abannayuganda nga batunula. Era kyemmanyi nga DP ffe tukulembedde ekintu ekyo, era buli omu kati oba oyagala kubeera relevant mu Uganda toyinza butayogera ku transition, toyinza butayogera ku national dialogue, kubanga bye twogera tubimanyi. Bano abantu abali mu byobufuzi bya Uganda nze nga Nobert Mao bonna mbamanyi. N'olwekyo tulabula bannayuganda temukkiriza muntu yenna kubatomeza tiajja kujja okubanunula. Mubeere n'okukkiriza ti ffe bennyini oluusi tubeera balabe baffe, kubanga tugobera bakalanzi abatali batuufu ne batubuzaabuza. Ndowooza byebyo. Ekyo twakyogerako dda nti enkolagana gye twasaako omukono si ya lubeerera. Erina olunaku olw'entandika n'olunaku lwe lukoma. Enkolagana eno gye twasaako omukono ekoma mu kisanja kino ekya parliament. Mu kulaba kwange ng'omukulembeze wa DP ndaba nga enkolagana eno esobola okutaasa Uganda, kubanga ekendeeza pressure abaagala enkyukakyuka mu kavuyo nabo osanga weebali baagala kikolerera, naye tekijja kuyamba Uganda. Naye enkolagana eno eri wakati w'ebibinja bibiri, kibiina kya NRM n'ekya DP. Ffe ku lwaffe kusookera ddala tuli mu kutegeka tabamiruka delegates conference. Tugenda kulonda president n'abakulembeze abalala. Mu DP president yakwatira DP ebendera ku bwa president. Kitegeeza tuli mu kisaawe. Abamu bo balowooza nti olw'okubanga twasaako omukono DP ewanise kati egoberera NRM. Tuli mu convoy naye tuli mu motoka yaffe. Ffe tukutte steering, ffe tuvuga. Tusobola okuweta saawa yonna. Naye nga waliwo okwogeraganya ti bwe tubanga tugenda mu maaso biki bye tuteekwa okutereeza. Ekyo kikyali mu ddiiro. Era nsuubira enkolagana ejja kgenda mu maaso. Naye nga DP tetuli NGO, tuli kibiina kya byabufuzi. Kitegeeza nti abakulembeze tubateekawo mu kisaawe. Ndowooza mujjukira nga naakalondebwa ku bwa minisita twalina candidate e Kasese. Era mwe bennyini abannamawulire okumanya temwagala kutegeera ekintu ekiri obvious. Tikati ate Mao akola ki e Kasese? Tubadde tulowooza minisita yandiwagidde wa NRM. Bannaye mutusonyiwe. Mwe mubuzaabuza n'abannayuganda. Lwakuba kino kipya tekikolebwangako. Naye mu nsi ezimu nga Kenya osanga Raila Odinga ali prime minister mu gavumenti y'Uhuru, ate mu by election awagira candidate wa ODM Uhuru awagira wa Jubilee. Kati ekyo ekintu kiremye bannayuganda okutegeera bo bali stuck. Mwesibye ng'ebyenda by'embizi. Anti ekyo kati kyemugenda okutambuza kubanga bye bigambo abannayuganda bye baagala okuwuliriza ennyo. Kati mawaze kubasumulula. Mutambule. Muli stuck. Kati ffe baplamba. Muli stuck. Yes.
Kino tekibadde mu by'oyogedde mu kusooka nabadde gyaki?
Abamu bulowooza nti mu bwongo bwange mulimu CD ya minisita oba CD. Nze sikolera ku flash nti simanyi DJ track number 1, DJ track number 2. Obwongo bwange era bwebwo. Abansasulira fees mwe bakola investment. Ekooti y'amagye eriwo okulwanisa obusiiwufu bw'empisa mu magye. Discipline. Eina level 2. Waliwo general court martial, waliwo court martial appeal. Chamber ya appeal mu court martial. Singa court zineza civilian zibadde vigilant mu kulaba kwange, court y'amagye teyandiyingidde mu nsonga zino. N'olwekyo it's really a vote of no confidence in the judiciary to have people tried in the military court. So tulina kusooka kwetereza. Kati tuli mu byanjabala abamanyi olugero olwo. Omuntu gwe waleeta tamanyi kulima. Kati njabala yalina okujja akole. Kati eyo kooti kati ezenga njabala. Kubanga bano olubimbi lulinganga olubalemye. Lwaki olubimbi lubalemye? Tutandikire ku Karamoja. Mukimanyi nti ababadde batabula Karamoja nga tosobola na kusimba kasooli n'ojjamu ekintu kyonna. Babadde bano bakarachunas. Nga balemye civilian courts, kati kooti y'amagye neeyingiramu. Lwakuba si b'amagye naye nga balina emmundu babba ente. Mumanyi nti eyo kooti y'amagye yesirisizza situation eri Karamoja. Era kati wenjogera nsuubira president anaatera okuvaayo nga nabo bakitegedde nti tulongoose empisa zaffe. Bajja genda bagobere.
Weesiimye mattu oli wa mukisa okukira abalala. Omugugu gw'ebizibu by'ettaka gukutikuddwa Brand Property Services Limited ku lw'ettaka eritaliiko nkaayana. Ennyumba eziwedde okuzimbibwa wamu n'ez'okupangisa, apartments ez'okupangisa wamu n'okugula mu mawanga ag'enjawulo okuli Uganda, Kenya, Bungereza, Dubai, America wamu ne Canada. Okuddaabiriza ennyumba oba ebizimbe byo, property management n'abasaveya abakugu abataakufere. Twekwate ku nsonga zonna ezekuusa ku by'ettaka nga kw'otadde n'okugobera ku kyapa kyo. Kati pazo y'eby'ettaka ebadde okukaluubiriza egonjoddwa. Bw'okwataganye naffe tukubire ku noti 703 noti 79 oba noti 773 noti oba otusange ku MT House omwaliiro ogusooka room 5 ewazana ku Entebbe Road okuliraana ekizimbe kya Muguluma Empire. Tukyalireko ne ku website yaffe www.brandpro.co.ug. Brand Pro Property Services Limited, tutuukiriza birooto. Uganda Eyenkya,
Abalungi abatuuliriza era abatulaba olunaku olwaleero tuchaddeko ewa Sheikh Ashraf Dembe.
Sebo nsanyusa okubalaba. Amannya agange nze Sheikh Ashraf Dembe akola ku bizibu by'enjawulo. Omuntu singa aba alina ebirwadde musomereddwa tunywa amazzi ga lukuya nga bw'obadde ogalaba tugenda abantu ku kyoto ne twokya emizimu emibi egibabaamu n'okulomba edduwa. Abantu singa abeera ng'ali wano atuuse sobola okumulombera edduwa ne waba atatuuse nga mpadde amannya ge naye ng'ali wala. Neetaase enamba yange yeeno eri 0707363711. Nammwe bannyinaffe abali ebweru oyagala okuba nti oyagala okulombera ku dduwa ng'olina ebizibu viza zibuze amaka gakolongotana sente zikola zimpita mu ngalo ojja kumpeereza ekifaananyi kyo n'amannya go ebyo byokka bijja kummala nja kukulombera edduwa ojja kutereera. Olunaku olusembayo mu mwezi mba n'edduwa ey'awamu ffenna n'abalwadde bange abakadde n'abapya. Salaamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Mpisa zennyini ez'Abannayuganda nga bagoberera amateeka. Naye nga buli lw'oleeta bano ba Rasolas mu kooti ya civilian babayisaamu amaaso. So nga minisita munabyabufuzi amanyi situation ya Uganda ate akimanyi nti tetuli Denmark tetuli Sweden. Njagala kakasa nti kooti y'amagye erina kukola ku baamagye naye eyingiddewo lwa gaapu eno. N'olwekyo investment yange nga minisita tulina okujjuza eddibu eryo eriri mu civilian court. Ebyo bye birowoozo byange. Situation gye tulimu eri abnormal nze bwe ndowooza. Mwagadde nnyo intentions. Every political formation in Uganda is looking for relevance. We welcome our Deputy Secretary General. You are welcome. In DP, we are proposing 5 things. First, we must realize that ideas are what make an organization. We will be elected not because of the organization per se, but rather what the organization stands for. Even if you remove all of us and separate us from DP, the fundamental question you have to ask is, what does DP stand for? To understand that, you must go back to our constitution. It is not by accident that we are named the Democratic Party. That means our party is about the people. All the people, not some of the people. The second thing that we propose to do is to clarify our historical fundamentals. I cannot talk for the parties that started yesterday because we did not start yesterday. DP has historical fundamentals. And those are the reasons why we don't behave the way other parties behave. In other parties, there are knee-jerk suspensions, knee-jerk expulsions. That's not the party our founders bequeathed to us. Sometimes there appears to be chaos within the party, but we will never oppress anyone inside the Democratic Party. So our second objective going forward is to clarify our historical fundamentals. And I would like to thank the members of DP who have been active in the media. And I like to single out Mr. Kennedy Mutenyo, who has been clarifying these historical fundamentals. Just like the church, you hear cases of priests sexually abusing both girls and boys. You hear of corruption cases. But the church would not stand if it did not make clear to its members its historical fundamentals. Because those who drive organizations are human beings. And a solid organization must be able to overcome all the problems. This year we are 70 years old. And we are not 70 years by accident. We have learned more lessons than any other organization in Uganda. Nobody can lecture DP about being oppressed. We have been oppressed by the Ugandan state. Nobody can lecture DP about being in prison. There is no party that has had more members imprisoned than DP. You cannot lecture us about being killed, abducted, or even disappeared. You all know that up to now, our heroic leader Benedicto Kiwanuka does not have a grave. He was disappeared, murdered. Last year he would have made 100 years old if he had not been killed. Nobody can lecture us about being tortured. In the 80s, we had our members of parliament shot by the government. So, we can only be a credible party if we do not detach from our historical fundamentals. So, our credibility must be beyond reproach based on our experience. On the three main issues that have defined our party. Number one, human rights. We have never failed to declare where we stand on the issue of human rights. Number two, good governance. And number three, private enterprise. DP is the party which resisted state ownership of enterprises because we believe that all human beings have a spark of ingenuity through which they can organize businesses. And as DP, we believe that the government should only be restricted to doing four things. Number one, to protect the borders of the country. Number two, to protect you from having your life or property threatened by any other person. Your personal security should be protected. Number three is to establish the laws, rules, and regulations of the society. And number four, to be in charge of adjudicating disputes where anybody feels that the rules have been violated. That's why we have the judiciary. Those are the four fundamental roles of the state. It's not the role of the state to interfere in your daily life. That's the role of community associations and local governments. Yes, we want regime change. But regime change, or what we call transition, is a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. That is why the fundamentals of change must be crafted, agreed upon, and articulated. I would like you journalists to do an experiment. Go to the streets and ask anyone, what do you understand by change? To you, what would change mean? Perhaps you'll get a better answer from all the speeches we the politicians can make. For some people, it's their children having equal access to the State House scholarship. For some people, it's a higher salary. For some people, it's a job. For some people, having their cases sorted out in the courts quickly. So, what are the areas that we want to change? The fundamentals. Next year, our constitution will be 30 years old. Naturally, just like a building, it is in need of renovation. There may be leakages, but in the case of Uganda, there are serious cracks on the foundation. Because the building blocks that bring together Uganda are not sitting at ease together. Nobody applied to become a Ugandan. Now that we are together, the rules that bring us together must work for all of us. So we must agree on renewing our constitution by doing some of the basics that we are always articulating, ensuring that the constitution provides for term limits, reviewing the electoral system, and as DP we will continue articulating the idea of changing the electoral system from what we now call first past the post to proportional representation. Get tired of telling Ugandans that proportional representation ensures that no vote is wasted, because the country will be divided into electoral areas and each party will submit a list of those who would go to parliament depending on the percentage of votes that they get. That's about democracy. Number two, the economy. Uganda used to be the country where the gap between the rich and the poor was very narrow, but that gap is now widening. To close that gap, we must build on our human capacity. We may boast about our minerals, the oil, but the greatest wealth of the nation is really the people. We must invest in the people so that they can take advantage of opportunities. We must fight corruption so that the money which is collected by the government serves the citizens. And how do you fight corruption? You fight corruption through personal example. By realizing that you are a steward, that you don't own the resources of the country, but you are a steward. For us in DP, our leaders are not paid salaries, elected leaders of the party. That is why, even as I talk, our accounts are in surplus because of the savings we make. We are able to invest and have property like this one and 2 other properties in the city of Kampala. Just the other day, I went to inspect 3 acres in Soroti City. Before that, I had gone to see another property in Pade. This is stewardship. Speaking as somebody who serves in the cabinet, I can tell you that money is actually not our problem. Government has a lot of money. Take it from me, because I know. It is only our sense of priorities which is wrong. And we need to change our priorities so that we support the fundamentals that will unleash the energies of our people. Our people need better roads. Our people need their land rights to be protected. our people should not be subjected to unfair taxation. That's about the national economy. We need security for the person and for their property. But above all, we need national unity. As I talk now, Uganda is extremely divided. Why are we divided? Because the legitimacy of the government is under test. People must feel that, well, your party may not be in power, but you must be entitled to the bare minimum that all citizens are entitled to. So those are the fundamentals of change. The four: democracy, the national economy, peace and security, and national unity, which can only come as a result of a reconciliation process where we will speak the truth to each other, forgive each other, and also ask for forgiveness from those we have wronged. So that is number two, that our party will clarify our historical fundamentals after realizing that we must not lose sight of the ideas that form our party. Number three, it is time for us to reach beyond our traditional core. Every organization has got its credo. Islam started in the Middle East, but now Islam is in Indonesia, it is in India, it is in America, it is in Africa, it is everywhere. That was the credo. They have expanded because they have grown beyond their credo. Christianity started with Jesus and his 12 disciples, and it was basically around Jerusalem and Rome. UPC was formed out of a splinter group. One splinter group was a faction led by Milton Obote, a faction of Ignatius Musazi's Uganda National Congress, which united with another party called Uganda People's Union. That's what formed Uganda People's Congress. DP emerged out of a feeling of marginalization by Catholics who felt that the colonial government was denying them opportunity. And it was started here in Buganda by 8 founders who were all from Buganda. There are those who continue to want to keep DP in that credo. They go around saying, DP, this is just a party for Catholics and Baganda. Now we have Muslims, now we have Protestants, we have evangelicals, Seventh-day Adventists. The other day I went to visit Sheikh Mbogo in Mukono. He was one of the first Muslims to join DP. We have outgrown our credo, and we must continue to outgrow our credo. Even the NRM was largely at core 100% Bantu, mainly dominated by people from Ankole. Now, as a lawyer, I believe in evidence. If you want evidence, go and look at the list of the delegation that went for the peace talks in 1985 with the government of Tito Okello. Tito Kello's delegation had people from all parts of Uganda. The delegation of the NRM was 100% Bantu. There was nobody with the name O. As I talk now, they have outgrown their credo. So, DP must continue this process of reaching out beyond our traditional core constituencies and our historical base. We are not ashamed of our historical base, because the basis on which you are oppressed is also the basis on which you are organized. If women are organizing to resist oppression, you cannot criticize them by saying, how come you don't have men? But you are being oppressed as women. So the men can always come, but the core and the base must be those who feel the oppression. I thought that was common logic. So DP will never apologize for its beginnings. Instead, we own the beginnings and proudly say we have grown beyond our traditional base and the core constituency. DP used to be the party of the, the ordinary people, the real grassroots. But now, we have to articulate the interests of the middle class and those who are aspiring to get there. There was a time in DP when if somebody found you wearing a very nice suit, they would say, looks like you have been bought. If you packed a brand new Mercedes Benz, people would think, because they thought, I think they felt guilty. That was a bit strange, because that's not really the spirit of the Catholic Church. Look at how our bishops and cardinals dress. Look at our cathedrals. So I found that to be really a contradiction in terms. So now we tell our young people to proudly aspire to also be symbols of prosperity and the well-to-do. If you look at the homes of our founders and our key leaders in the 60s, every DP's person's home had a driveway and a big compound. That's what DP was. Number 4, the nature of the electorate is changing. So we cannot continue talking to the electorate as it was. We must actually start talking to the electorate as it will be. Now we have the Gen Zs. The old messages will not work. These putting old tired messages in the microwave and serving them. I see a lot of microwaving going on in the country. People bring tired leftovers and they put it in the microwave and try to serve it again, and that won't work. Ugandans are anxious about how the country will change. Ugandans are anxious about how President Museveni will hand over. There are those who say he is irrelevant in the conversation about the Uganda after him. For us, we say he is not irrelevant. He has to be part and parcel of that conversation. And that's why everybody now is talking like us. People are now using our terminology. Transition. Uganda needs peaceful change. We need dialogue. We need truth and reconciliation. So once again, we come here today to say the rejected stone shall become the cornerstone, which is really DP. We cannot talk as if we are addressing audiences of the 1960s, 80s, or even the 90s. We cannot even talk about addressing an audience as if we are repeating the same leftover messages of agende, agende. We must try something we have not tried before. Because the things that are being talked about by some of the so-called leaders are things that have been repeatedly a source of frustration and failure. Somebody said the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You cannot have chicken eggs and then you say they are going to hatch turkeys. It's not possible. So as DP, we deal with the reality the way it is. Uganda is not Denmark, Uganda is not Sweden, Uganda is not Netherlands, Uganda is not Britain. Uganda is Uganda. So you must first of all deal with it the way it is. Not the Uganda in your head. And having thought about all, there should be no pride in celebrating being in the opposition. To the extent that others even say, for you are not in the opposition, you know. Imagine those who have lost a match. And they say, no, you are not one of the losers. Don't be with us. But what if I'm coming to give you courage so that you play better next time? We believe that given the situation in the country and given that our logic of abandoning smug partisanship, that phrase is very important. Smugness means you are comfortable. So by abandoning smug partisanship and doing something totally new, we are in a position to reverse our party's fortunes. What are our strengths? We are known as the party of ideas. You can see, because we have somehow now decided to detach ourselves from those we call the Malebes. They are not benefiting from our usual creativity. Nobody beats DP in the arena of public policy. All those proposals you see in Parliament, including the ones that I am considering as a minister, are largely from DP. So to ensure that our leadership as the party of ideas continues to grow, we have decided to launch a think tank to initiate, debate, and prepare the policy positions of the party. In addition, our Leadership Academy of the Uganda Young Democrats is going to intensify its training programs for the up and coming leaders. The next leader of DP will be someone from the generation born in the 80s and 90s. I have led this party for a long time now, 15 years. This is longer than I've ever been in any position. By next year, I will have led the party for 15 years. As we head to the next delegates conference, I will still seek another mandate to lead the party, and together with the team that will be elected, continue preparing our young people. Why do we need young people? Because we of the current generation We are custodians of the traditional DP values. But the young generation are the custodians of the modern means of doing politics. Myself and the Kennedy Mutenyus, we may not compete with the young people in terms of the modern means, but the young people cannot compete with us in terms of being knowledgeable and being custodians of the traditional values of the party. Why? Because the old ways of doing politics are becoming increasingly irrelevant. The voters are more educated, they are more independent, and by the way, I have news for you. Ugandans are not as partisan as you may think. Ugandans belong to parties, but that does not necessarily they are too partisan when they hear that there is a good idea coming from another party. The composition of voters is changing. There's a demographic shift. Most of the voters are now young. Now we hear of Generation Z. What is the defining characteristic of the Generation Z or Z? One, they are more skeptical. Two, they have a different attitude towards government. The Generation Z are very suspicious of government, naturally. So it doesn't matter who you are. Even if you win power, you will still face that Generation Z. And yet, it is these new voters who hold the key to power. Why do we need to understand the Generation Z even more importantly? As a matter of fact, they don't want an intermediary. That's why they don't even want to join parties. The people who are toppling governments don't belong to any political party. They want to participate directly. That's why we are saying they are not disorganized, they are actually unorganized. So, what will we do as DP is to talk to them directly in the language they understand. To make politics exciting to the Generation Z. In terms of organizational renewal, the Office of the National Organizing Secretary is now completing the compilation of the membership register. So I repeat my call to those who call themselves DPs but are not on the register. Please know that the party has a constitution, and the provisions of the constitution are not suggestions, they are mandatory. So, register, because it is out of the membership that we shall get the delegates. So, if you really want to influence the direction of the party, first make sure you are a member, not just a supporter. Party membership is not hereditary. There are those who go around saying, my grandfather was DP, my father was DP, therefore I am DP. That mathematics is contrary to the constitution of the party. Step forward. Even if your father was a Muslim, and at one time my father was a Muslim, by the way, that did not make me a Muslim. You're asking what happened? I made up my own mind. So, we must appeal to the multitudes in Uganda, speaking about our ideas and values, but also our political strategy. Why did I say that we must understand Uganda as it is? In this country, government has been changed violently by the army. Our economy is still weak. The country is divided. The promise of democracy in the 1995 Constitution has been betrayed. Because Ugandans expected that in 2016, in 2001, going to 2005, 10 years after the Constitution was promulgated, President Museveni would not be on the ballot. That was the expectation. So when I say the promise was betrayed, that's exactly what I mean, because I was in that parliament and I voted against the removal of the term limits, which now we believe will be restored. Our challenge now is to inspire Ugandans to grapple with the challenges. But first we must tell Ugandans what the real challenges are. Some people think the real challenge of Uganda is that DP has a cooperation agreement with the NRM. Has it stopped those who want to bring down the government? Surely the 11 pages of the cooperation agreement cannot be the biggest problem. Because these problems that the so-called opposition is facing have been there before the cooperation agreement. So it defies logic. Then there are those who have the courage to call me and say, you betrayed us. And I tell them, you have never believed in me. So you can only betray somebody who you have believed in. But because now it is convenient, I don't have to talk a lot. Many people are talking to the national resistance movement. I can say everybody in the opposition is talking to the NRM. But because of what is called Obufere and dishonesty, they cannot stand up the way Nobert and the DP can stand up and say, here is what we have managed to put down and this is what we have agreed upon. Then others make it such a big deal. How come you have not brought the transition? But why are you not supporting? You are first of all criticizing the cooperation. Then you are saying you want it to work. You can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. So we are indeed in very interesting times. I have seen documents by groups like the Holy Alliance. The Holy Alliance even went beyond the DP cooperation agreement. They want to give President Museveni a full term without elections. Bring me that piece of paper. I think you journalists are really not assisting us. I have to repeat my complaint. You are covering people saying nonsense instead of going to the depth of really questioning leaders about how serious they are. Because even if I'm doing something you don't agree with, at least you should know we are very serious. And I've come to this press conference simply to say Nobert is very serious and DP is very serious. And you don't need to like what we intend to do because we are very serious about it. I think it is on page 7. We are who we are because we have contributed to nation building in Uganda. And that we are probably the only party that has the bigger picture. We are always demonized by myopic political self-seekers, but usually we are proved right. These days, Ken Mutenyo is serializing Archbishop Joseph Kiwanuka's pastoral letter, where liars were telling people here in Buganda that if Benedicto Kiwanuka is elected, he's going to abolish the kingdom. So Obote is a better option. That was like taking a ride from a crocodile. Okay, a crocodile can swim better, but a crocodile is not your friend. He's just carrying his meal. Upon reaching the shore, the crocodile ate in 1966. But whoever told them that this is a crocodile was demonized. DP members would sit in a taxi and then somebody holds their nose and say, "There's a stench in this taxi. What is wrong?" They say, "Oh, there is a DP." That is the environment we endured. But we had the last laugh. When a man who used to be carried as a king and driven in posh cars had to walk on foot, running for his life. Why? Because the Baganda say, "Akana afa tekawulira ng'ombe." So Ugandans, listen to the ng'ombe of DP. An election is not going to bring change. Change is going to be negotiated. And to negotiate, you need a seat at the table. And to get a seat at the table, you must have an agenda. Because talks are not about beauty. It is about your capacity. So, DP, internally, we have wasted a lot of time bickering over irrelevancies, to the extent of some of our leaders even forging the cooperation agreement and sending a forged copy. So, we warn against the formation of myopic special purpose vehicles. Just like the vested interest in Mengo formed a special purpose vehicle and called it a political party, Kabaka Yeka. They coalesced with a complicit colonial power and resolved that in the 1962 election, the people of Uganda would have their MPs elected by the Lukiko. The KY MPs then formed a coalition with UPC of Obote and they formed a government. That's what is commonly called the marriage of convenience. This locked Benedicto Kiwanuka out of parliament and kept DP out of power. That marriage of convenience soon collapsed in a heap for reasons that are well known. DP sounded the ng'ombe. Fast forward, as the NRA stormed Kampala with their guns blazing, DP, with the broadest social base, joined the NRM government in 1986. Now, our problem, according to my diagnosis, is a misguided and narrow definition of what an opposition is. Why do you want to make yourself irrelevant in what is happening now, while telling people that you wait until we have removed President Museveni, but while you are earning a fat salary, you are driving a nice car, and you even orchestrate demonstrations. You mobilize young people, take them to the streets, and then you orchestrate an arrest. You are taken to the police, you sit on a sofa, while the young people are put in police cells, and then you enter your air-conditioned car and go home, and you get hold of a remote control, and then you start asking the people at home, "Babiraze ku TV, have they shown our thing? Have they shown my struggle? Has my struggle been shown?" While you are sipping a cold glass of passion fruit juice. And then you post on social media, "Free our people." Now, unfortunately, it is our role again as DP to say these things, because nobody else is going to say it. When the NRM took over, What we called opposition was UPC and its fiery Assistant Secretary, Cecilia Ogwal. Its base was Uganda House, and the institutional framework it leaned on was the Presidential Policy Commission appointed by Obote, who was in exile. Geographically, I'm now telling you politically what opposition was. It was UPC, and Cecilia Ogwal was the face of the opposition. Geographically, the opposition was the North, and ethnically, Nilotic. Government was geographically Southern and ethnically Bantu. These are verifiable facts. After 10 years of a stalled democratization process, DP leaders led by Dr. Semogerere walked out of government and announced that he would run for president in 1996. Ever the big tent, big picture party, DP chose its old rival as its partner, UPC. They formed the Interpolitical Forces Coalition. The old enemies, in quotes, became partners. Semogerere and Cecilia Ogwal traversed the country together. The same UPC that in 1980 had said that if you vote DP in our place there in the north, DP will force you to carry bricks and stones to come and rebuild the Lubiri, which was destroyed under the UPC government. They now had to go and undo it because they knew it was a lie. But those days, to make DP lose in Acholi, in Lango, and West Nile, they simply said, you dare vote DP. Can you imagine carrying bricks for 300 miles? You are going to carry it. And somebody imagines carrying bricks on his head, says, no way, I'll take UPC. Now, that's the kind of politics of propaganda. What they say here is okusigo obuchai. And DP had to go to Luwero with Cecilia Ogwal and now say, okay, these are good people now. That is what focus means. Semogerere was demonized and turned into a leper here in Buganda. He was presented as a Trojan horse working for the return of Obote into power and as a front for the resurgence of the defeated and murderous Nilotics from the north. Semogerere swept the polls in Teso, West Nile, Acholi, and Lango. The rest of the country shunned him. The Bantu Nilotic divide was clear in 1996. Now, these are the actual challenges of the political class. And we cannot deal with these challenges unless we are seen together. Again in 2001, against the wishes of some of us, DP and Semogerere rallied around Kizza Besigye, who challenged Museveni on a platform of reform. It was not foreseen that Besigye would form a political party. I don't need to repeat everything that we have gone through. But all that you need is to have open, clear eyes. And then you'll see those who are going nowhere and those who are going somewhere. I already know, I don't need to go to a witch doctor to say that the majority of people who are wasting your time in your media spaces are going nowhere. Soon, FDC positioned itself as the opposition and started fighting everybody else for the loser's cup. Why should people fight over the loser's cup? So DP was demonized and smeared as a Museveni Trojan horse. I was not a leader of DP by then. then made an agreement with a clique which called itself Subi. Some of them, you see them now. These are the political mobile units. They called it Buganda Subi 2011. Many of their leaders, they ran for parliament under DP ticket but supported Dr. Besige. I was singled out for the most vitriolic hate campaign. If you are not supporting Besige, you are not opposition. We stood our ground. That was 2011. I was a presidential candidate. Dr. Besige became number 3 in Acholi, where he was always number 1 with overwhelming majority. The point is, you can't take people's support for granted anymore. So 2026 is going to be totally different from what we have seen before. Because now we have so many other groups. So the attacks on our leadership became more intense. A group known as IPC, which we refused to join. So here are people who believe in human rights, they believe in freedom of association. But if you don't associate with them, then they attack you for not associating with them. But what if I don't want to associate with you? So the bad blood continued, and we went for EALA elections. Before the EALA elections of 2012, FDC and NRM used to sit and agree. NRM would take 6 seats, and FDC would take 3 seats. It was okay until DP said no, Parliament must elect. So Fred Mukasambide, our vice president, and DP went to court. We kicked the door of EALA open. When we kicked it open, FDC ran and said, no. We must now boycott the elections. I said, but why were you not boycotting for the previous 10 years? We agreed to boycott. The late Mathias went for a meeting at Katonga Road, and they signed officially that the opposition would boycott. I wasn't an MP, so I took a walk to Parliament. I found Salam Musumba vigorously campaigning to go to EALA. I found, I think, John Kazora vigorously campaigning to go to EALA with big banners. So I called Fred Mukasambide. I said, you know, sometimes you must walk alone. I know those of you who support Liverpool, you say never walk alone. But what if nobody else wants to walk with you? But you must walk. Then you walk alone. So we walked alone. I told Fred Mukasambide, put in your nomination papers and leave the rest to me. I'll deal with them. They said, no. These are old banners. They were here before. Katuntu is now in Arusha to file a case. I found Katuntu at the steps of Parliament. I said, Katuntu, are you back from Arusha, or this is now Arusha? You see, the day I write my book, some people are going to take a very long leave out of Uganda. So don't let anybody deceive you. Some of us, we know a lot. We talk to everybody. Fortunately, there's nobody in the politics of Uganda who I do not know very personally and very closely, and who I talk to. And that makes the difference between me and the others. So while they can deceive you, for me, they cannot deceive me. Because I've seen them in the day, I've seen them in the night. I've seen them dressed and even undressed. Politically speaking. So they were preaching water but drinking wine. Now when Mbide was elected, they said he was elected with the support of NRM. But if my goal is to win a seat, am I going to call a rally and say, we hereby reject the votes from NRM MPs? What sort of stupidity would that be? You see, you choose your friends depending on your objectives. And DP is very clear about its objectives: to support the process of having peaceful change in Uganda through constructive engagement with the national resistance movement and its leader. Others, we call them regime change fundamentalists. They are saying he will go. But do they have capacity? If a man who has 5 liters of fuel tells you he's taking you to Mbarara, you would be an idiot to enter his car. A very big idiot whose head needs to be examined. Because I must first see your capacity. Because if I promise you something, first assess me. Do I have the capacity to deliver it? It may sound nice, you know. But with that group, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Instead, there is more tunnel at the end of the light. As indeed you are seeing more tunnels. Some people thought they had seen light, but after the light, they are now seeing a longer tunnel even. So it follows, therefore, that the path DP has taken is based on logic, it's based on historical experience, and it is the most viable because it takes cognizance of the real situation of Uganda. The so-called alliances that are created, the agreements are made and broken at the whim of whoever feels like. You know that Mavike was supposed to be the official IPC candidate for Kampala Lord Mayor. Out of the blue, they supported somebody from Subi, Elias Lukwago, as Lord Mayor. That's why Olaro Tunu jumped off the IPC, and eventually the others also jumped off. I won't bore you with the details of TDA under Amama Mbabazi. So, those who don't want to move with us, we also don't want to move with you. In Buganda they say, "Ensenene tezibuka na nzige." Grasshoppers. By the way, I'm a life member of Echibina Cholulimi of Uganda. So allow me say my things. I know the difference between Janzi. And on my bedside, I have MB Nsembi's book, Siwa Mutolugero. I doubt whether you have a copy. So, there are those who must first say, where very were, then they jump. That who has the mandwa, I hear. But if the mandwa is taking you to a wrong address, even if I find a new car, but if it is not going where I want to go, why should I enter it? I'd rather enter a ramshackle vehicle which is moving slowly towards my direction. So I am really wondering what has happened. At DP, that before the end of March next year, we shall have held our National Delegates Conference, where we shall elect leaders of the party, and those who are plotting about DP, please be part of the process rather than plotting, because it is the Secretary General to invite you to the Delegates Conference. So the easiest way is to recognize the leadership of the party, because you cannot deny the legitimacy of the leadership, but again you want to participate. We want Ugandans to put their hope in the right group. And I think the real hope, which is practical right now, is what DP is doing through its conversation with the ruling party. Remember, to lead Uganda, you need 50% plus one vote. By the way, you don't need everybody. You can even have 49% of Ugandans against you. Still, you will hold the Bible and be sworn in as president. So, there is no, you can have all the crowds of your 49%. That's okay. That makes our democracy lively. But the one who will be exercising power is the one who has 50% plus one. And right now, DP is interested in being part of that majority. Plus one. So we are not going to waste time quarreling about petty rivalries. DP has now gotten rid of those who are confused and those who don't like to abide by the party constitution. That is why some of them have even left the leadership of the party voluntarily. Nobody has chased them. So we need to work towards a new consensus. The Luwero consensus can no longer work to build a better future for Uganda. Just like the consensus of Kabaka Yekan UPC collapsed, the consensus of Lancaster House collapsed, the consensus that took out Idi Amin, the Moshi consensus collapsed, the Luwero consensus has also collapsed. So we wish to invite those who are willing to use their heads to come so that we have this wider conversation. The people outside Uganda who may be exciting Ugandans, around the election I heard that there was a ship docked at Mombasa, that it was supposed to come and liberate us. Let us liberate ourselves in our own way. We can pick a few lessons from other countries, but we must find our own solution, because at the end of the day, we don't want any part of Uganda feeling that they have been left out. That's why we are promoting the idea of a national dialogue and reconciliation. Now, in my capacity as minister, I'll soon be tabling the bill that the president announced long ago, the Transitional Justice Bill, which establishes the National Dialogue and Reconciliation Commission, so that we talk about the pain we have all borne. Somebody may talk about Chitalia, I will talk about Buchora. My daughter Barbara will talk about Mukura, where a train wagon was used as an oven for roasting human beings alive. These are things we have to talk about. So everybody has their pain. So if you are here and you have a sick leg, maybe you have a pimple somewhere, I don't want to lecture you about my pimple. Let's just say that everybody has a story in this country, and we need an institutionalized approach to deal with it, and only DP can deal with it through what we have started. Because the other alternatives are bogus, I can tell you. Eventually they are all going to end where we are, because they cannot raise that 50% plus one. Even if they have 40%, there will be commentators. So, I want to be part of the doers. not a commentator. And I also don't want to be the one who is trying to disrupt. I hope Ugandans realize that even those with the strongest differences in opinion still have many things in common. We are now in conversation to see what happens to the cooperation agreement beyond 2026. As you know, the cooperation agreement, which I drafted, by the way, is only for this term of parliament. It is not open-ended. But now you find people who have not even read it are experts on it. You know, like those of you who quote passages from the Bible, and then you turn yourself into experts. The cooperation agreement was a result of very sober reflection. I've said it before. It was not about looking for a job. If it was about looking for a job, I was offered the job in June 2021. And the job was vacant. You were seeing it every day, that there was no Minister of Justice for 1 year. Where did the salary go? And I needed that salary, by the way. Yeah, for sure, who doesn't? Unless you are deceiving yourself. I needed it. But I had to forego it because that was not what it was all about. Now when I talk, some people say, oh, why are you talking like that? Others are saying, why don't you now join NRM? I know how to join NRM. I don't need advice from you. And if that's what I wanted, I would have done it. So let us be where we are in our Democratic Party, because that is our duty. DP is not private property. I'll never put it in my will for my children to inherit, because it belongs to the members and it has a constitution. My main statement has been in English, so I will entertain questions in English. To do something to solve Uganda's problems. So I can only wish them luck, but I think my best advice is that they should listen to my advice. I've been advising the opposition for many years. So finally, you have to listen to Mao eventually. I have been in this conversation with petty radicals, including my own actually people. In 1997, we were in London, and they told me that I was a traitor. What am I doing in Museveni's parliament? So I also gave it to them. I told them, by the way, you are big cowards, you ran away, that's why you are here in exile. If you are courageous, you should be in the bush. You claim to support coin, but you're a bunch of men without balls. Thirdly, you were in the Tito Okello government. You had control of all the money, you had the guns, you had an army. How did you lose power? First explain before you start blasting the rest of us. If you were in power, there would be no Museveni, there would be no war in the north. So stop obscuring facts here. So Museveni is only a symptom of Uganda's problems. And they say to get the area of a circle, you need pi. To craft the future, we also need President Museveni. The new formation, I was out of the country because I needed to go and sign a treaty to support the young people of Uganda to join the knowledge economy, because that's where the real money is. So I had gone but I was also busy in another city, The Hague, because the government doesn't have enough money to send many people out. So I was commuting between two cities. So I was only following patches of it. I never had I actually have no idea of what the occasion was really about. I think it was like a parade. You know, so if you ask me how was the parade, it was nice. They marched, they displayed their weapons and so on. Some of the weapons backfired. But I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Because really, DP has already done what should be done. Here is a president who I think is not hostile. Of course, he wants to continue being president. But he also knows that there is the biological clock is ticking. That's why every statement he makes, he starts with Bazukulu. So, if you are sensible, you'll now be crafting an agenda to engage President Museveni collectively. So the majority of those who are criticizing DP are criticizing DP because we have done very boldly what they have been thinking about. You know, it is like a poor boy with no resources who has the courage to approach a beautiful girl, and the girl starts engaging with him. Then those who are jealous, they start saying that girl is a prostitute, she has been with so and so, she has been with so and so. But so that is what it is. There's nothing new they are saying. We have decided to do what some people think should not be done. But DP doesn't believe in political untouchability. We should touch even our biggest opponents. If you don't talk to those who disagree with you, that's not true reconciliation. If you are only sitting with those who you love, that's not even revolutionary. So I think they know the right thing. So I can only say let's wait and see how it happens. But they need to stay away from loose cannons. You know, loose cannons tend to backfire. And that would really be my advice. Every day there's a new formation. Holy Alliance, Unholy Alliance, don't know what, Democratic Alliance, Front for Freedom, this and that. Then another one. I think we need some birth control now in these formations. They are, and then others form, then they disown them. It's all sign of lack of clear thinking. The major attribute of a leader is to be a clear thinker. So I don't mind people deceiving me, but I'll never deceive myself. So sometimes people gather and they believe a similar lie. So I don't know whether it is an alliance or a lie or whatever. Let's wait and see. But eventually they will all come where we are. That one I can tell you. Now concerning the Honorable Martha Karua, I've seen the letter which was written to her. And by the way, I'm not a member of the Law Council, and I don't think it is my job to tell them what to do, because we must also respect people's independence to make a decision, including a wrong one. But all laws provide for appeal processes. I've seen the president of the Law Society has written complaining. I've not received any formal complaint from anybody. Maybe they believe I can't do anything. But my view is that you let me first go and look at the file. The people of the Law Council, they are part of us in the Ministry of Justice. But we don't do their work. They do their work. You know, sometimes people even call me and say, tell the judge to decide like this. I tell them that, well, the only time I write to judges is when there are administrative problems, so that they deal with the administrative problems. Either there are unnecessary delays or their rights are being violated.
Uganda Eyenkya.